The full Homestead-Miami Speedway infield roval is a tight technical track that is plenty exciting and challenging on its own. But last year, when the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miatas took to the modified road course, which utilizes oval turns 3 and 4, the excitement level was off the charts. With the great passing opportunities in the infield at turn 6 and 8, combined with the drafting from turn 8 all the way around to turn 1, who would lead at the end of any given lap was a complete crapshoot. So it's no surprise that the series returns to this wonderful layout early in 2024. Welcome to round 2 of this year's season 1 of the Full Send Sims Spec Miata Championship. Hi everybody, I am Greg Creamer, and as always, it's a treat to have Kyle Heyer alongside, and really looking forward to this one. Kyle, based on what we saw at this venue last year with this particular layout, as the Brits would say, I'm completely chuffed about what might be happening tonight.
Oh, I can't wait. This racetrack put on such good racing last season. We saw some drag races in both race 1 and race 2, all the way back to the stripe. That long run from the exit onto the back straightaway all the way around to the checkers is always exciting, but it does add a little bit of a predicted element to this where you can kind of wait and plan your pass at the end. And sometimes when everyone has the same plan, no one's got a plan at all.
Yeah, and then that's when things get really interesting, and then it's about adapting in a big hurry and figuring out, all right, that's not what I anticipated happening. Can I do something to make it right? And that's what makes this particular layout so exciting. And it's almost like two different tracks, isn't it? You've got that first sequence of corners that you take a look at it here, the upper right-hand side, turn 1, not very tight. Turn 2, much tighter. Turns 3, 4, 5, incredibly tight. But you've got to get out of 4 and 5 well, Kyle. Huge overtaking opportunity into turn 6.
Absolutely, and big standing on the brakes down through the gears. We saw a lot of exploded engines here last season. It's where actually we started the season last year, and because it was the first round, we saw a lot of drivers making that shifting mistake. We saw it at Sebring as well too, but you have to take care of the gearboxes here, slowing from these extremely high speeds. This is terminal velocity for these cars tonight on these long straightaways.
Absolutely. What I love, too, about this is the exit of 6 through 7, it opens the radius up. You watch the turn-in here, and once you get that turn-in right, then you're just feeding power all the way through 7. Same thing down here into turn 8. Hard, late braking, because once you get your turn-in done, you're just feeding throttle if you do it right. And this is even more critical than it is when you use that dive down through turn 10 aspect. Now you stay up on the oval, so you have got to get your exit of 8 absolutely spot on. 9 doesn't really exist, does it? But you've got to get out of 8 well, and you've got to be there for this draft all the way through what we call 10A and 10B, or Speedway 3 and 4.
And you have to be here as well in qualifying to make good speed around here. 10 minutes remaining in qualifying and a couple lap times already on the board, Greg. Jordan Rick Segrini up at the top of the number 108, but having a look at the weather here today. It's cloudy here in Homestead-Miami, but look at the track temp, 121 degrees Fahrenheit. That is getting up there in your iRacing. I think I've only seen about 20 degrees hotter than that in the worst of conditions. So while the ambient air is not so bad, the track temp is pretty toasty.
Well, this track really reacts, as we watch Piatek there running a little bit wide in qualifying. This track really reacts to any kind of direct sunlight. And it's cloudy, but we can see shadows down there. And the minute sunlight hits this track, the temperature soars. And remember, this track is known for being incredibly abusive on tires. Maybe not quite as much as Sonoma, but not that far off. And so you really have to be, even in these short races, Kyle, tire management here with those kind of temps, it's going to be really critical.
Yeah, about 30 drivers signed up for the racing tonight. Very good field sizes for the first 2 rounds of the season. Of course, last week at Sebring was a popular choice. I think we're going to see racing that is as competitive. We are missing one competitor, and he didn't have a great week last week either, and he will not be present this week, and that is Morgan Burkhardt, our 3-time champion. So off to a slow start, although his reasons for missing this week, Greg, I think can be understood.
Yeah, pretty good one. He's already at Daytona at the Roar, getting ready for his first appearance with Victor Gonzalez Racing in a TCR car for the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series. And what an opportunity for him. I mean, he showed what he could do here in virtual racing. He showed at the runoffs. what he's capable of in real-world machinery, and especially in a spec class. And I think it's just an absolutely great opportunity for him. So all of his energies are being focused right now on the Roar and getting to grips with that car. As we have this great shot again, Kyle. We just love this one from Beans Forrester, that split screen that gives us the pedal work and that, as I call it, the racing ballet that goes on when you're using an actual gated shifter. It's magnificent. It
really is fun to watch. I especially love the socks with gas and gas.
Yeah.
So that tells you about what's in Beans' mindset here tonight. Currently third.
What do they say, brakes just slow you down?
They're not for slowing the car down, that's for sure. They're for pointing the car. And Beans drops to fourth as Nicholas Rice-Sputo jumps up into second position. Native Floridian here. Some new graphics on the side of the car here this season with the Rice-Sputo coverage here. Average lap speed about 83 miles an hour. You can see the lap time on the left, 1:37.68, just 200ths behind provisional pole sitter Rick Segrini.
Yeah, really, really close that these two guys have. Then about a 10th back to Josh Soto and Beans Forrester in that same window. How about the gap between Beans Forrester and Eric Haywo, fourth to fifth, 5/1000ths of a second. These cars, minor changes. If you didn't tune in for our first race last Tuesday night at Sebring, minor changes to this, the setup, basically running a lighter fuel load, so the car is a little bit more responsive. But we just see these kind of close margins on this track in particular. It's a short oval in its own right, so you add in the Roval road course, it's still a fairly short track. It's about 2.25 miles, so that can change things up, and we get these really close margins throughout.
Yeah, looking down the list of intervals here, there's only three of the top 10 are separated by more than a tenth. That's pretty close. Dean Dibdal jumps up to 10th place in the number 99. A little bit of argy-bargy down here into turn one. Eric Haywo is going to get launched off, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, Greg, was this run down into turn one. And turn two for that matter. This has been a problematic section in past seasons here. If you have any contact at all on the run into this braking zone, it will just send you straight. And because the track kind of kinks to the left and then continues to turn to the left, you see right there, I think that's Wayne Buttermore going for a slide. It can lead you into some trouble pretty quick.
It can, and what you don't think about here is you're absolutely flat down through turn one, but you're still turning and getting the car straightened up as you go to the brake. So, if you're off position a little bit, remember, if you get too far to the inside to that apex curve, there's a pretty good bump down there as well. And so you get a car right next to you, they get unsettled, tap you, it's really tough. And I learned the hard way here on a lapping day. I went straight off the outside of two because I finally had enough guts to flat-foot it through one, and then made the tragic mistake of not backing up my braking zone a little bit. And, one of the things that's difficult here, Kyle, not a lot of reference points, particularly down into turn two here for getting that car woed down a bit.
Yeah, and I think reference points in general, this track, while it might be in the Roval configuration for many of the days of the year, it's primarily set up for NASCAR operation, for oval racing, and so it's very, very wide. It's got a wide apron as well. So when you're turning into some of these road course corners, especially from the oval section, you might be 100 feet away from the wall where those cones are to let you know that there's a corner coming. So finding your braking point and then consistently hitting it lap after lap proves to be as challenging as the lap itself.
It does. And now, this is such a tricky section here. You don't want to run the normal, side to side of the track. You want to keep that car pinned, the exit there of turn three, so you can square up, really get a run out of 4 or 5. Really doesn't exist. If you get 4 right, you're just flat chat. And if you don't get it right, if somebody's behind you and they do, you're a sitting duck for a pass here.
And then into turn 6 here. Watch Rich Green get down to the apex. Going to be a little bit wide on exit there on the rumbles. And then down to turn 8, which is one of your better passing opportunities on this racetrack. It's certainly one of the squarest entries, unlike turns 1 and turn 2 where you're flying in at high speed. Now, one of the other things is we're not running the what I would call the A configuration here, where you turn down onto the infield for one final chicane. You're staying up on the NASCAR banking, which eliminates one of those kinked corner entries, but provides you with what feels like 3 miles. It might not be that long, but it feels like 3 miles of passing zone onto the front straightaway.
It really does, and it just changes the dynamic here with that, like we talked about, that drafting opportunity. And, with these cars, since you don't have massive terminal velocity, you don't want to be running up high, really. You want to run the shortest possible line. Car's going to stick. That's not the issue here. The only time you'd move out is if you were drafting and the guy continues to defend down low and get a run. Rick Segrini, by the way, just turned to 137.46, now is over 2/10 clear of Nicholas Rice-Puto with Soto sitting in third. And Giancarlo Schooler, who had a problematic race in the opener last Tuesday at Sebring, has jumped up into that 4th spot. So good comeback run for him.
He's already got a smile on his face, too, as he's in this big pack here. Those in the sim racing world would call this a pit party. You got a couple of your qualifying laps in, you're happy with where you are, you might as well jump out there and learn how to run in a group, because that's the way you'll be racing. And Schooler, currently 4th on the timesheets, is right behind this group that is led by Beans Forster at the moment.
This is that section I'm talking about here through 3, 4, and 5. Out of 4 here, if you get that right, you're just on the throttle early. And if you go through turn 2 and you go into 3 and you do your normal turn in, if you track all the way out at the exit of 3, you're never going to roll the speed you need through 4 and 5 because it's just too much of an angle to try and get it pulled back over, and so your entry into 4 is going to be too tight. So that's part of the very technical aspect of this first section of the track. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 to a degree, and of course turn 8 here, essentially a hairpin, just long run into it, and then as you exit here, you can see it opens up. This little sort of flick to the left is turn 9. And normally you're not even down near the apex at 9 because you're just rolling speed up onto the bank.
Now, I wanted to get a look at, he's letting some cars by, but at the top of the screen you can see that virtual mirror there. You see how the normal rear view mirror in the car is actually kind of split between his center and right monitor, and that can be a bit distracting to have that warping there. So a lot of drivers will elect just to have that virtual mirror, which is just a replication of what the rear view has, but centered on your screen, and that will be something that you'll use a lot tonight to keep drivers behind you. But Greg, the windshield's bigger for a reason. You want to be looking out the front as much as you can, but come that last lap, I think there'll be quite a bit of mirror driving happening.
I think you're absolutely right. People paying real close attention to what's happening behind them here as we're down to a minute left in this session, and Rick Segrini over Rice-Puto, that margin pretty good. Then another 10 from Rice-Puto back to Soto, another 10th back to Schooler. Behind them, the gaps are absolutely minuscule, but tell you what, that split between those first 4, it's almost half second between those top 4 at this stage. That's pretty significant. Let's
see what Rice-Puto's got. He looks like he might be in the green here on this lap, 137.338, and just like that, he will go to the top of the board in the last moment of asking there, Greg. In the last 30 seconds, Nicholas Rice-Puto steals the pole away.
Wow, and does it with a mega lap at a 37.3. That's over a 10th clear of Rick Segrini right now, as we have at this moment, 10 seconds about left in this session. So Rice-Puto looking really good at this point. What a front, that's a great couple of front rows. Rice-Puto, Rick Segrini, Soto, Schooler, Forster, Haywell, who's been really impressive so far this year as well.
And because of the heat format, you won't get a chance to finish your qualifying lap. Joshua Soto was up 1 second on his best time. That might have been good enough to put him on pole, but he will not get a chance to show us. So we will head down to the racetrack to grid here in just a moment, Greg. But of course, the partners and people that make it all happen, Full Send Sims absolutely puts this all together. Court Schmidt with Full Send Sims makes some of the finest simulators on the market. And as he always says, practice makes podium.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that slogan, and he does it because he's got tremendous sim experience. It all started in military sims, and I mean tanks, armored vehicles, and creating those sims, but he's also a real-world racer, so he's been able to apply those two technologies and mindsets, if you will, together, and has created some absolutely extraordinary sims. And then, of course, we've got 3P Logistics, Frank Rodriguez, back for another year with his tailored trackside support for you, your family, and your race car. They'll take care of booking flights, cars, everything while you're away from home. And Rob Greenwood at Final Turn Motorsports have returned as well. Full service prep shop, dyno tuning, and a Miata transmission builder. So they do an absolutely great job. And then back as well, Wine Country Motorsports, the racer's resource for helmets, suits, gloves, shoes, seats, and harnesses for over 30 years. Wine Country Motorsports race gear and equipment. So fortunate to have them alongside. And of course, once again, at the end of this season, top 3 all get trophies, but also a little change in some of the hardware this year. The winner will get a Samsung 49-inch ultra-wide monitor. Second will get a Butt Kicker Gamer Plus. Third, a Logitech G Pro X gaming headset. But remember that Full Send Sims admins and instructors are not eligible for sim hardware and prizes. And if you've already won one set of that sort of hardware, obviously you can't repeat in the same year, in the same calendar year. So just because you're outside of that top 3 doesn't mean you're not going to win something. So the real message there is don't quit.
Yeah, that monitor is a great prize.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, the gaming headset as well. What was the other one there, Greg, that you mentioned? The Butt Kicker.
Oh, what was that?
The Butt Kicker.
Yeah, the Butt Kicker Gamer Plus.
Yeah, that's something I've thought about adding to my rig is, haptic feedback, essentially. They're basically transducers that you bolt to your rig. You can do them in a variety of locations, but they run off an audio channel from the simulator, specially designed to give force feedback to not only your wheel, but your entire rig. So it shakes the rig, rumble strips, that sort of thing. Really cool. I've looked at getting them before, but haven't fully committed. So it'd be a nice way to get one, is to win one here in Full Send Sims Spec Miata Series, Greg. But let's have a look at our starting lineup for this race.
Real quick,
go ahead.
I just saw Beans Forrester pull out of line, so I'm not sure what's going on there. He's gone to the back of the field here, so not sure what's up there. But yeah, let's get to that starting lineup, and it all begins. Nicholas Rice-Puto with that great late lap starts the 0-3 on pole, next to Jordan Rixagrini in the 108.
And behind them will be Joshua Soto in the 77. Giancarlo Schooler starts 4th in the number 110.
Starting in the 5th spot, it was going to be the 23 of Beans Forrester, who's now dropped to the back of the pack. And Eric Haywo starting in that 6th spot in the number 16.
And Deacon Greenfield starts 7th in the number 20. Trace Hance rolls off 8th in the number 53.
Starting 9th in the 62 will be Olivier Piatek. Starting 10th in the 69, Jeremy Fletcher.
And behind them, it's Jorge Ortiz in the number 311. In 11th, Dean Dibdahl starts 12th in the number 99.
Starting 13th will be the 32 of Skip Brock Jr. Starting 14th, Jordan Butler in the number 72.
And 15th, Jim Friedhofer in the 89. Jamison Huffman starts on the outside of row 8 in the 37.
Starting in the 17th spot, the 35 of Michael Loughran and the 172 of the man, Cory Schmidt.
And behind them, Jack Murchison rolls off 19th, the number 25. Andrew Gilliland starts 20th, the number 91.
Starting 21st, will be the number 22 of Rich Green. Then starting in the 22nd spot, the number 1 of Jose de las Casas.
Carson.
Now, we'll see if he's running that Barbie livery again.
Sure
yes,
is.
He is.
Carson Neal starts 23rd in the 117. Seth Spolman 24th in the 042.
25th will be the number 50 of Stephen Blethen, starting in the 26th spot, the 00 of Max Bankin.
And 27th place is Tristan Cadet in the number 144, new name I believe here. And behind, alongside him rather, Andrew Guada in the 61 starts 28th.
Starting 29th, the number 7 of Greg Ginsberg, starting into the 30th spot, the 125 of Sawyer Richards.
And the last row is Wayne Buttermore in the number 73, and Gene Reyes in the number 29 rolls off 32nd. That's your starting lineup here. Quick look at the weather. It's cooled down quite a bit from qualifying, down 20 degrees, Greg, but here we go.
Yeah, the cloud cover has settled in. The track has dropped. That's good for everybody, and we're getting ready to go. Barney lets it fly. We are green, and a couple of guys getting a good launch here. Piatek got surprised. I'm not sure that is coming down the inside of him, but look at this, 3, 4, 5, a big wiggle in the middle, and somehow, Kyle, everybody held on to it at this point.
So far, so good. There was a couple of cars bouncing off each other as we went through and into turn 2. Still, we made it through all single, well, not single file, but in one piece still.
Exactly.
Oh, there's a spin. The 16 of Eric Helwo's around right in the middle of the field. That's going to be disaster for him and some others that pile in.
Man, and he had such a great qualifying going and had a great start here. And with that spin, now there's been a big gap from that first group of, let's say, 10 cars back to the next group. But up front, Rice-Puto, Rixagrini, they have opened up a little bit of a gap, and Trace Hance got a fabulous start and has jumped up into 3rd.
And Beans Forster, who you documented dropping to the tail of the field on the opening lap, he is right in the thick of it right now in that number 23. We don't know why he dropped to the tail. As one car, Stephen Blethen, slides to the inside and slams into the wall. And a couple drivers that will not make it to the end of lap 1 are already out. Jorge Ortiz, Andrew Guada are 2 others that have already retired.
Ooh, big lunge move here by Haywo down to the inside of that actually got him all crossed up. Was that Carson Neal?
Yes, in the yellow and black, indeed it was, and he'll straighten back out. And first lap here is always a chaotic one with how wide the track is and how narrow it becomes. But the two drivers out front have broken away. Trace Hance up to third, right ahead of Giancarlo Schooler.
Yeah, and then Deacon Greenfield also putting together a good start. And here we go. Schooler popping to the outside here, trying to get around on Hance as we ride on board with Deacon, who got a double toe. Is he going to be able to pin Hance down to the inside? He is not. Hance going to try and out deep. Schooler now down in, and Schooler wisely lets him go. If he had tried to close that door, I think Hance was pretty committed, and that could have been ugly. And right now, these guys want to catch Rice-Puto and Rick Zagrini. They can't do a whole lot of battling side by side. They just have to put their heads down and go.
No, and Jordan and Nicholas, they know the deal here. If they run nose to tail and push each other along, there's no way this second pack can catch them, especially not when they're scrapping like this. But we'll see what the gap will be in a couple of laps. It's about 2.7 from Rick Zagrini back to Trace Hance. Here's Dean Dibdahl and Olivier Piatek side by side.
Piatek just taking that spot away. At least now he noses ahead. Will Dibdahl, though, have the run and have the inside into turn 8? Looks like he just might. Just was able to run a little bit wider line, carry a little bit more speed. Let's see what he does here on the brakes. Can he get it done down into 8? He can't. What a move by Piatek there as he squared up under Greenfield as well. That was a great defense on Dibdahl and a great move on Greenfield.
Yeah, he spooked him enough that Greenfield just gave him the lane, and away he went. There's a bit more trouble in the tail of the field. Joshua Soto is involved.
Boy, he has had such great speed this year and such horrible luck. I think I saw the 22 of Greenfield too.
Yeah, right there.
Rich Green, I mean.
Yeah. Just got together, and Soto just gets collected out of his own doing there.
Boy, and Soto has also been attacked from the back as well. Speaking of attacking, look at Rick Zagrini popping to the outside down into turn 1. Thinks he has a little bit more pace right now, maybe. But again, you talked about it, Kyle. These guys know if they just run line astern for a while, these guys are going to, it's going to be a tough job for there to catch him here. And again, you saw Hance trying to get around on Schooler, and that's just slowing him down. Yeah,
Schooler now leading this pack, though. If he can get Hance to participate with him here, I think Schooler is probably the sharpest dart there. If they can move him forward, they can follow him back up to Rick Zagrini and Rice-Puto. But as it stands, they lost about a half a second that lap to the pack in front of them. You can see it's single file now all the way back to turn 4. And about half a dozen cars went to pit lane with crash damage earlier, including Skip Rock Jr., Seth Spolman, Jordan Butler, and a few others as well. So some notable names in that mix.
Yeah, seriously. And interestingly, you know, Josh Soto came in here with the point lead after those first 2 races last week at Sebring with 2 second-place finishes. And in the second spot was Jordan Rick Zagrini, only 3 points adrift. He had a win and then a third, and then Nicholas Rice-Puto third coming in, a 4th and a win. So for Josh Soto, of that trio with that big margin, he's really struggling right now. And John Reyes was really impressive last week, a 5th and a 4th, but I'm not even sure where he is, and if he took the start here, he was so far down that order, I don't know that he got a time even. Let's see if we can.
Well,
is he out there?
Look, there's a crash. He's right here.
Oh, no.
But he started from the pits, I think, Greg, because I don't have
that's what it was.
His information on the timing screen, so that's where that comes from. But we just saw Wayne Buttermore and Carson Neal have a coming together at turn 8, which has been a popular spot so far.
Well, you know, it's such a diabolic move. There's another look at it there. He just got all kinds of crossed up, and well, I'll tell you, Buttermore thought he was clear, and then they just got into him here. Cars pinballing everywhere here. But turn 8, it's such a great overtaking area, but it's also such a critical corner to get the entry right that you know, sometimes it's so easy to just overstep it a little bit.
Olivier Piatek has gone to the point of the second pack behind Jordan Rick Zagrini. So Schooler, actually, well, Piatek, where? Interesting. Piatek is.
Schooler has jumped up into third now.
Oh, Schooler's ahead. There it is.
Yeah,
it's Dean Dibdahl. I was trying to figure out. I thought Dibdahl's car was Schooler, and I was very confused for a moment. But yeah, so Schooler has begun to put some distance on him. But this is still a pretty scrappy group back here with Deacon Greenfield, Jack Murchison, and more.
Absolutely it is, and they are not shying away from racing at this stage. Jamison Huffman there in the 37 doing a really nice job as well, up into the top 9 right now. Started 16th, and obviously we had that bit of contact on that opening lap, and anybody who's able to slice through is going to pick up a nice chunk of positions.
And we'll see what he does here. He's going to have Greenfield to the outside, just losing a spot to Murchison. We'll see if Huffman is going to take advantage of this or if he's going to push Greenfield back by. And to see now Murchison on the left behind Trace Hans. So it kind of bottles up on the straightaway here as everyone gets in line to push. And those that are not willing to sit behind, they're kind of creating the chaos as they split the gaps open and go for any place they can.
One thing I've noticed is that Deacon Greenfield, he's running very quickly, but when he gets in some company going into corners, he seems to be a little bit extra cautious and hits the brakes a little early, opens the wheel up and the like. And I think he could have maybe forced the issue there and picked up a spot on Murchison as they were heading in there, but opted not to do this at this point. Obviously, he's maybe feeling something else right now at this stage.
And quickly, Piatek and Dibdal have left Trace Hans, Murchison, and Greenfield in the dust, and we're creating a couple 2- and 3-car breakaways now, which is how we've seen these cars race in the past. Again, we're running slightly lighter fuel load than we have in the past, so the cars will handle differently. But we're also seeing, again, track temperatures that are lower than they were in qualifying by a significant margin. That brings grip level up. And once you separate out, you're not sliding the tires around as much, and you won't see as much. In the overworld, we call it comers and goers, those that go out too fast and burn up their tires. Not sure what you call them here, but either way, I don't think you're going to see a lot of drivers burning up their stuff when the track temps are 20 degrees cooler.
Yeah, fast early, slow late, or vice versa.
Yes.
But here's the thing, while Schooler, Piatek, and Dibdal were sort of sorting their own thing out, they've now got a 4.5-second deficit almost to Bryce Puto and Rick Segrini. But because Hans, Murchison, Greenfield, Huffman are still fighting each other, they now have a 2-second gap on that group. So, and watching him down in here again, you can see Hans really crossed up as he was trying to protect a little bit, it looked like, on Murchison, who's really putting some pressure on.
Yeah, he was
a big wiggly head.
All out of shape going down into turn 2. Used every inch of road out there on the rumble strip and actually opened up a passing opportunity for Murchison and Greenfield behind. Greenfield will take the opportunity. Jamison Huffman lingers back there. Then Jim Friedhofer in the 89. We haven't really mentioned his name yet. Up 5 spots from the start.
Yeah, he's got Michael Offram right with him and Jose De Las Casas as well. All doing a nice job of avoiding some of that mess in the earlier laps here. And I'll tell you, Deacon Greenfield, after I had mentioned he seemed to be a little overcautious, he pounced on that opportunity for that pass, didn't he? He wasted no time, stuck his nose in there.
Sometimes you got to get aggressive, and he's doing that at the right time, it seems like. Beans Forster, by the way, was scheduled to start 5th, ended up starting much deeper than that, but working on 12th place, Jose De Las Casas right now, and he's got Jeremy Fletcher right behind him, another driver that elected to start from the pit lane, which seems to have been a pretty smart choice with how wild things got in the middle part of that first lap.
Right, and you can see right there, and Jose went down the middle of the track into 8, trying to defend a little bit on Beans, thinking he might try something, and Beans had that outside line, and the minute that Jose braked and turned in from mid-track, there was no way he was going to carry the speed on the exit, and just that quick, he gets freight trained by both those guys as they come through, Forster and Fletcher.
And there's our faces on the rear deck lid of that car as well in the foreground of that shot. But here comes Fletcher to the inside. Woo! Big lunge. Watch Beans on the brakes here.
Yeah, he got up wide, and look at Jose thinking, I got opportunity. I'm going down underneath. Fletcher runs wide. Beans snaps sideways and spins out there. No contact with anything. I don't know if he had a little tap from Fletcher, but no contact with anything immovable out there, so he's just going to lose some spots. Maybe it's just a little nudge there. Huh?
Yeah, I think the Fletcher got a hit from behind from De Las Casas right here. Watch this. Oh, no, he didn't. He just got spooked. And then the slightest of touches there to Forster.
So Beans is going to have to dial it up and come after him once again here, and he's dropped back at, what is that, Tristan Cadet he's coming after. Dives down the inside there. Now we'll look ahead to the 00, Max Bankin.
There he is, that blue and white car just up the road. Court Schmidt as well has some damage to the nose of the car, but he's up 3 spots from the start. All the while, the front two are consistently running some of the fastest laps on track. They are now 5 seconds clear of Giancarlo Schooler. So it might not be a pack coming back to the checkers in 8 minutes, but this is that planning stage I was talking about in the preview, Greg. Everyone knows how to win this race. You're going to be second on the last lap coming to the checkers, but how do you reverse that script if you're Nicholas Rice-Budo? What are you going to do other than just try to finish or be second coming to the white? Because, you know, that's where Jordan Rick-Sangrini wants to be. So it's kind of a race to the bottom on that last lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, obviously Rick Sangrini's going to do everything he can to pressure Rice-Budo, but he does not want to go to the lead unless he decides he wants to. All right, is this where I want to make my move? And if he makes a pass and then try somehow to give it back. But the problem is you do that, obviously Rice-Budo's pretty savvy as well, and he could go, no, you showed me where a pass could be made. I'm going to sit back here in second. So, yeah, this is, hey, we're right back to the chess match, aren't we? What kind of positioning do I want to do on this big board to be ready for those last couple of big moves?
It's going to be fun to watch. Here's Huffman and Greenfield trading spots. That's at turn 5 and 6. Now into 7, and Jack Murchison lingering. This battle in the second half of the top 10 has been the fiercest of the day so far.
It has been. Obviously, it's costing them a lot of time relative to the guys in front. Oh, and Trace Hand suddenly just was at a slowdown, a penalty of some sort?
I have to imagine. Let's see if we go back and find where he might have gotten it. I don't think they have them on corner exits here. Maybe it was at the apex of the next turn. No. Huh. It must have been the exit. Because he was wide. If we go back and look. But I don't recall there having been one at that corner, but maybe it was even earlier. I don't know. Huh. Either way. No, it had to have been that running wide there, so bizarre.
Yeah, definitely. But so now he's got to get after it again. We know he's got the pace
spin.
to do that.
Turn one.
Big spin up front. Contact the leaders, Kyle.
Yeah, that was Rice-Budo and Rick Sangrini coming together, and that was not what I expected or had on the bingo card.
Yeah, not at all. And I don't think, obviously, either one, you know, I mean, so, Rick Sangrini went for the move and then lost it. Got that big inside curve we talked about. You clout that curve. Coming up here, down to the inside, and now right there, get up on the curb, just a little bit too much pace, back end comes around.
Yeah, and I think he just had another issue from what I could tell. No, he must not have. I saw a speed that was very, very low. Let's go back and just double check, but no, he was good. But yeah, I mean, he just got in there too hot and swapped ends on him when he tried to get the thing stopped, put it on the nose and jumped a curb. But that lost them about 2 seconds of their advantage. They still have 3 seconds over Giancarlo Schooler, but that was a chink in the armor for those trailing 3 cars that are now running a pretty good clip behind.
Yeah, and I got to ask you, what's your thought on why he would have tried that? You know, not that I'm against the pass opportunity, but you know, we just talked about, you know, going into turn 1 there, you know, into 2. Does he just feel like he has more raw pace and that he could break away from Rice-Budo to give it a go at that point?
I almost wonder. I mean, Jordan Rick Sangrini, I don't think he did this intent. Oh, you know what it is? Here, Greg, I wonder if you can hear this. And watch the dashboard.
Okay.
He had the clutch in the entire time. He had no engine braking.
Sure did.
So I figured it wasn't intentional, like he wasn't going for the pass and it was just a mistake. It seems like he got crossed up on his downshifts and didn't want to pull the clutch out because he wasn't sure what gear he was in and didn't have the engine braking, and then just dove to the inside to avoid hitting Rice-Budo.
Okay, well, yeah, based on that evidence, I would agree with you completely. And Trace Hands now trying to make some moves here, trying to get around on Murchison. He's got position here. Boy, he drove 2 and 3 to perfection to set him up for 4 and get that inside run. You can see, though, just how quickly you get into one of those side-by-side battles. And look at Huffman up the road with Greenfield. They've opened up a quick 3-4 car lengths. This momentum thing is massive here.
We've seen this trend in the past at these bigger tracks in this series, that you can't really mess around with the driver that you're next to. If you want to both go forward, you both have to cooperate. Otherwise, one of you has to be faster than the other, because if you're the same speed, you're just going to end up both going slower. It's a weird math problem.
Exactly.
But yeah, already they've lost about a half a second, 0.8 of a second to Deacon Greenfield, and that's almost outside of drafting distance here.
And And just that quick, Rice-Puto, Rick Segrini back up to about 4 seconds clear of Giancarlo Schooler. He's got a half second on Dibdal, then Piatek and Dibdal having a really good battle right now for that 4th spot. But that has allowed Schooler to just check out on these guys a little bit too, hasn't it? Yeah, there we are, looking back.
Yeah, on board with Giancarlo Schooler and 4.6 back, and I think some of the seriousness on his face, he'll know that Rick Segrini and Rice-Puto just had a run-in a couple of laps ago, and they weren't able to fully take advantage of it. They gained some time when the incident happened, but immediately lost it. That's a little bit frustrating when you're the chasing car to see those drivers make a mistake and you're not close enough to capitalize. So it might just be a race for the bottom step on the podium in this one.
I think it is, and we are at 3 minutes, just under 3 minutes left to go in this one. So what, 2 laps? So probably the white flag this time by?
Looks like it, yeah. No, maybe next time by. It depends on where the leaders are.
Yeah.
It's showing 11 of 13 for me now, but no, you might. I think you're right. It's going to be white next time by. We'll see if that corrects on my timing screen.
Boy, and meanwhile, it looks like Dibdal might be making a move here on Schooler. No, he didn't get it.
Oh, Schooler's wide, though.
He got Schooler to run wide, Kyle. Exactly.
Just put pressure, keep applying pressure until you see the top. The top pop. that's not where I wanted that to go, but down the back stretch and into NASCAR 3. Look at the run here from Dibdal.
Yeah, he has nowhere to go with it. I wonder if he's just sitting there going, all right, no, we get 2 laps to go.
Yeah, about 10 seconds shy of being 1 lap to go.
Oh, look at Piatek. He got a double draft going way out wide. Going to try and arc around the outside of Dibdal. Dibdal, beautiful drift through turn 1. Held his spot. Does he hang on down through turn 2? He does.
That's the trouble with that first corner, is you're just carrying so much speed. If you go in there sideways and you jump on the brakes, the car isn't stabilized yet, and especially if you need to downshift quickly, it can get you in a pretty bad spot. So it's a fascinating and fun corner, but it is tricky to get the dynamics right.
Watch for Dibdal to make a move down here into 6. Schooler really didn't get through 3 and 4 and 5 that well. He had just enough in hand. I think Dibdal was just being a little bit careful here. But Schooler seems, I'm seeing Schooler do, like, when he came out of turn 3, he really ran much wider than you want to, and it hurt him going into 4.
I wonder if Piatek feels like he's in the catbird seat here, or if he'd rather be where Dibdal is. You have to think of this like another race for first, right? The leading car in the pack is the one in trouble coming to the checkers. Piatek's wide at 8.
Meanwhile, Huffman has worked his way a little bit clear of Trace Hance, as Hance has finally got through on Murchison. So we'll see whether Hance and Murchison are now able to draft up to the back of Huffman, who's really being pretty impressive here. Really a solid run for that number 37 as we go back up front. And Rice-Puto and Rick Segrini right back to what they were doing before. There's the white flag, and there goes Rick Segrini to the outside. Is he going to try the over-under here? No. Oh, thought about it again, didn't he?
He did, and they're both a little bit wide at turn 2. All the while behind him, that battle for third is just as fierce.
Now watch Giancarlo here. Let's see if he tightens up his exit of turn 3, and he does much better. Still a little bit wider than you might want, but that time got it down at it gives you the better angle into 4, and you grab the throttle a little bit sooner here. And with Piatek sneaking through and Dibdal, I think Giancarlo Schooler's got to drive a lap of the gods here, because Piatek, I think you were right. I think he feels he has pace. And
while all this is happening, Tristan Cadet in the 144 is closing quickly on Deacon Greenfield. He's got that 20 car just ahead of him. And the reason I bring this up is Deacon just had a very slow previous lap, 9 seconds off pace. We'll see if that comes to a head here. Up front, though, Rice-Puto and Rick Segrini. This is that last dash. No brakes from here on out, Greg, up onto the backstretch. Absolutely, and that's a shame for Deacon Field. He was right up in that top 5 battle for a while, but here we go. Puto's trying to do anything he can to eliminate some of that draft
to Rick Greeny. Rick Greeny can't bite. He's just got to stay there. And when the moment's right, make it move. As he swing high, he's setting up high. Bryce Pudos not taking the bait, going high with him. But look at the run Rick Greeny gets. It is an absolute drag race to the line, side by side. Here we go. Rick Greeny, last lap, gets it done. Somebody in front launches a motor, but here's that battle as well. And Schooler just hanging on over Piatek. And look at this battle. Hans trying to get through on Huffman, but can't quite get it done.
And here comes Beans Forster on the tailpipes of the 77 of Soto. This is going to be a drag race to the stripe between these two as well. Here comes Forster, and yes, he's got 11.
Yes. Gets it done. That pushes Soto to 12. Wow. Cord Schmidt 13th, Jose De Las Casas 14th, in Greenfield hanging on to a top 15 after playing right up at the sharp end of things here. Look at that margin of victory. I do love Homestead Course B, as they call it. It is just a fun layout. Look at that margin between those first two cars. That's pretty unearned.
Yeah, 0.037 between those. That is pretty unbelievable. And then similar between Hans and Hutchison, only a couple hundredths of a second there. And looking down, even some closer ones between Beans Forster and Joshua Soto and some others. So great results there at the tail end. We got what we were waiting for between Rick Greeny and Bryce Pudo, and that was a learning for both of those drivers. Jordan learned his strategy worked. Nicholas learned his didn't. And now when both of them apply their learnings, what happens in race two? That's the ultimate question.
That is, and obviously for some of the drivers who showed speed in this one but struggled for whatever reason. And I'm sorry for Jean Reyes, who was so impressive in round one and didn't get a great start, had to come back. Obviously Jorge Ortiz, Eric Cawo taken out in that early shunt, so we'll see what they're going to be able to do here. While we have this break, as we take a look here again at the results, I want to remind everybody one-on-one instruction sessions are available through fullsendsims.com. The instructors are now three-time champ Morgan Burkhart, Beans Forster, Konrad Chachik. There's also the racing schools, and anybody that just thinks, I need just get a little bit more familiar with what's going on, improve my pace. Those racing schools are a great way to do it. The next one coming up will be the 25th of January at Watkins Glen. The following weekend we will be at the Glen. So, remember, always check that out. And if you're looking to get an updated rig, remember Full Send Sims has their new Pro Ultimate rig. It is spectacular. It features a triple screen setup, a 49-inch center monitor, two side monitors, a 34-inch top monitor, and that you can use for telemetry, track data, track maps. All available. Check it out at fullsendsims.com. And, remember that the Full Send Sims mobile sim unit is available for rental. If you've got anywhere in Florida some special type of event, reach out. They can bring that rig. It's got two sims in it, and can use it for whatever you think and need. So give that a go here. But again, just absolutely what we were expecting here in that first race. And I can't wait here to see what this second one brings, as you said.
Yeah, the second race, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a couple reasons why I think it's important to take note of race one and how it finished, because I'm just looking at the schedule for the rest of the season here. This is a draft battle track to the stripe here. Our next race next week is at Daytona, which will be more of the same coming back to the stripe. Then we go to Watkins Glen's short course, which will be more of the same of that drafting to the checkers. Then we go back to Sebring, the full course again on February 6th. And the first time in a long time that we won't have a draft battle is Lime Rock on February 13th, Greg. But then we're right back to Road America, right back here, then Road Atlanta, then VIR. It's all fast tracks this season with the exception of Lime Rock. So the things that you're learning now in the draft are going to apply for the entire rest of the season.
Yeah, they will. And, Lime Rock's not a huge draft track, but it's a massive momentum track. So some of those things will even come into play there. So, yeah, you bring up a really good point, that study, learn now, because that's going to be in play all season long. And I think we want to remind everybody, Kyle, that one of the reasons that we have the schedule we do is this series tries to mirror as closely as possible what's coming up on the SCCA racing calendar that next weekend. So they really made a point looking at the SCCA calendar where Spec Miatas are going to be running and go, what's racing on the weekend? Maybe let's hold a race at that track so we can let people come and do some practicing with us here. And I think that's one of the reasons we've had such a great turnout these first two races. And it makes sense, doesn't it?
It does, and in keeping in line with the idea that using iRacing as a tool will only really help you if you're using it in that tool context, and setting up the races to be at the same track as we're going to be running later in the week is a great idea. The same thing with the schools previewing upcoming events. The next school is at Watkins Glen on the 25th of January, because the following week, the 30th, is when we're going to be running it in the series. So not only prepping for the sim race, but we're prepping for the real races as well. So really good strategy and really good plan there. That's also why we're repeating some racetracks on the calendar. Sebring is one. We go back to Homestead next time as well in February. But when we come back here, we're running on the A configuration, which adds that chicane in the middle of the last two corners on the NASCAR course.
Yeah, really tricky turn 10 when you dive off of where you would normally be entering turn 3 on the oval and down to the inside. That's a sketchy piece of racetrack too. It's a lot of fun, and I'll always look forward to that as well. So yeah, lots to be thinking about here as we move forward, no question about that. And I'll tell you what, the whole idea here is to have fun, get together, race, go for a championship in a sim series, but we've talked about it. The mantra, the slogan of Full Send Sims is practice makes podium, and we're trying to help anybody who's real-world racing get to that top step of the box, or any of the steps on the box here, through the use of this racing series. So a lot of goals in this series, but amongst them all, and probably right at the top, is of course fun.
I hope everyone's having fun tonight watching. I hope they're having fun on the racetrack. We're about 50 seconds away from gridding up for our second and final 20-minute race of the evening. So we saw what happened at the end. Let's go all the way back to the very, very start of the race, Greg, because turn 1, lap 1 turned out okay. By the time we got to the backstretch, things started to get a bit out of hand there midfield. And it seems like that's because that's when the track funnels. The first couple of corners, while the racing line gets narrow, it's still pretty wide. But as you get to turns 3, 4, and 5, that racing line narrows up a lot.
Right. I mean, we talked about it right at the top of the show. Turn 1 is flat, pretty wide open. Turn 2, quite a bit tighter than 3, 4. It really get snug down there, and everything narrows up, and you just get the wrong run out of one of those turns, you're going to collect some cars.
How do you balance risk versus reward in a 20-minute race like this? We've seen how quickly it can fall apart, but how long it takes to catch someone once you make a mistake. So at the start of this race, when you're 3, 4 wide, is that justified, because making up time is so much harder once the field's spread out?
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think the smart thing to do on this track is you come down for the start, you go through turn 1, and at that point I think you need to really be thinking about just getting line astern, unless you've got somebody really slow in front of you, or you can make an easy pass. But don't take risks on this opening lap, because if you do and you get caught out, some big names ended up way back in the pack. And if you're back in the pack and you can thread that needle, you're going to make some big gains. So I think you've got to be a little cautious on this opening lap, let things settle, then go race, for the very reason you talk about, is that with these cars, it's tough to make up big gaps.
Well, we were talking about the weather being a bit cooler in the previous race. Now it's up to as hot as it's been all day long, 127-degree track temp, but cloudy temps again. So that could come down a bit, but also have a look at the breeze. 14.5 miles an hour out of the southeast, Greg. That is a very fast, breezy day here in the hot Homestead sun.
Yeah, and it truly is. And coming out of the southeast, that means you're going to be, right as you turn into the oval, turn 10, you're going to be getting a nasty side wind as well. So that's going to keep things pretty interesting out there as well. But, these little gaps of sun, when they hit this track, the temperature soars on this track. And if the clouds come back in, it's going to cool. But if they don't, we talked about it before, you're going to need to just manage your tires a little bit more than perhaps you had to do in that first race. Starting lineup is on the left-hand side of the screen, but it's just how we finished the first race. So it puts Rick Segrini up on top, Ray Sputo on the outside of that front row, down to Loughran in 10th. We'll start on the outside of row number 5. 31 starters for this one. Looks like everybody except for one driver will start this race from the previous. So that's a pretty good retention rate here, and some looking to rebound after not having such a great race. I think we had about 8 or 10 drivers have to go to pit lane for either a penalty or crash damage. So I think really everyone from Max Bankin on down are looking for a little bit of an improvement in their race result here
Sawyer Richard was out early. Rich Green was out early. Stephen Bleth and Andrew Gilliland. They all have another shot here.
Yeah, and here's a question for you, Kyle. What kind of an attack early does Rice Pudo put on? Does he try and go for the lead if he gets a great start? Or does he try and slip over, slide in between those two team cars and split Rick Segrini and Schooler and run in that second spot that Rick Segrini used to such great effect?
Yeah, you know, if I'm Rice Pudo, I would just rather like to redo what just got done to me. I'd like to make it a 2-horse race, maybe, hopefully even a 1-horse race. I'd like to just drive away with it. So if I can act like the chopping block there and split the field in half, I'd like to do it with just myself and one other car and hopefully break away. So if you can create a little bit of chaos in your wake and drive away like they did last race, that's the best scenario. I don't think you want to have a pack of 10, 15 cars barking up your rear bumper no matter what. So as much as he's focusing out the windshield, if I'm Nicholas Rice Pudo, I'm going to try to make sure that I get to second place and leave everyone else battling behind me.
And I'll tell you what, a guy who's been getting remarkable starts this year is that green, white, black car outside of the second row, Olivier Piatek. He has just been timing things beautifully, and you know he's going to be plenty aggressive, as will Dibdahl. And Huffman, really impressive here. Trace Hance, this is going to be a lot of fun as we are working our way onto that front straight and getting ready to start the second of the doubleheader races here for round 2 of the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Championship. And here we go. Field looks really, really good at this point.
Now rolling out of the last corner, Greg, here we go. 20 minutes on the board.
All right, let's watch for it. A little bit of jockeying here, but he's got to be a little careful. Barney throws it, and looked like Rick Segrini had a little bit more of a margin maybe than Rice Pudo would have wanted. Dibdahl right on the back of Rice Pudo, though, giving him a little bit of a push. Yet Giancarlo Schooler right down there. Dibdahl taking a big peek down to the inside, and it looks like the 37 of Huffman may have got through, and we've got a couple of cars involved at the back of the pack. Looks like they've gathered it up. I think that was Greg Ginsburg was one of the cars.
It was.
Oh boy, here we go. 4 abreast into turn number 4. That is tough. There's 73 of Wayne Buttermore once again.
And Giancarlo Schooler, Dean Dibdahl fighting for third, but look at the 2-car breakaway up front. This is exactly what Rice Pudo and Rick Segrini wanted to see.
I think yeah, absolutely, and I think playing into that perfectly was Dibdahl coming up on Giancarlo and sort of getting around on Piatek, and those guys got just a little bit too side by each. And look at the gap again, boy. You know, history, you're supposed to learn from it, aren't you?
Well, they haven't really gotten a lot of chances to undo what they were about to see there. They've only had about a half a lap. They're already losing distance on them. They're 3 wide back here. Holy cow, the one of Jose de las Casas and Max Bankin and Kristen Cadet's back here. There's one car turned around. That's Scourt Schmidt.
Yep, 311 there of Jorge Ortiz as well. A little bit farther back than we're used to seeing him run. What happened here?
Just got up on the curb and
got that curb.
It around. And that's actually surprising to me because these cars are generally fairly compliant over the curbs, but here at Homestead-Miami, they're pretty tall, and if you unsettle the car, then whomp the throttle, these cars just have enough torque to break those rear tires loose.
Boy, look at this margin as they come to the line here. 1.5 seconds that they have in hand already here up front between those two. Dibdahl, big wiggle right rear, hit that grass. He was able to save it. Well, I'll tell you, Trace Hance, I'm not sure what happened to him. He just plummeted down the pack, didn't he?
Carson Neal was off track there as well. Yeah, 7th to 18th on the opening lap. Not the way that he wanted to start this one. And he's going to get tangled up in this one here with Eric Hewo. He was another driver that started very well in the first race. I think in the top 5, ended up 31st in it, though. He's going to chase Trace Hance all the way to the grass, and they're going to make contact.
Ooh, they touch. Oh, big wobble there. Hewo lucky to get away with that one. And also Cadet doing a really nice job in that mix as well right there.
It's got a lot of action out the windshield. It's got to be careful.
Yeah.
It's like watching, you know, the rhinos at the zoo, and then the fence isn't there anymore. You're in the exhibit now.
Yeah, and you're not. That's not a good place to be. And again, just saw the 20 of Deacon Greenfield. Oh, Jose. Boy, I'll tell you what. I think he came from Fort Lauderdale to make that pass.
That was Hewo in the pink car. Jose is a couple of cars farther north.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Boy, he came from a long way back. think that, yeah, the wrap on that car looks like it's a little off as well. But you can see when you get in that hot, you always then lose on the exit. It's, you know, the fast in, slow out. We were talking about Christian Cadet. He went right by, as did Greenfield. And I just feel terrible for Deacon fast in that first race. And then got shuffled back late in the going there. And it'd be interesting to see what he's going to be able to do here as Giancarlo Schooler
works by Wayne Buttermore there, who's a lap down after having come to pit lane. Ooh, a bit squirrely back there. Beans Forster. How about Beans up to 6th? Remember where he started first race?
Yeah.
Oh, we're 4 wide on the backstretch. That's not going to work. Dahl's in there bouncing off of cars.
37 Huffman trying to hang on to his position here. Forster trying to sweep the outside of Soto. Soto having a great race here considering where he ran at the end of that first race. Started 12th now.
Yep.
Jumping to 7th.
+5, and was never really much of a factor in the top 3 of the previous race. Here comes Jack Murchison popping out of line. He and Dim Dahl were banging doors on the run down to turn 6, and somehow they all kept it straight.
Not sure how.
Skip Rock Jr.'s up here as well, 18th up to 10th. So some of the drivers
for Skip,
turning their days around early in this one.
Well, it's so frustrating when you know you've got speed and then you find yourself mired in the back for whatever reason. And up front, Bryce Puto, Rick Zagrini, again, 1.6 seconds clear of Schooler and that battle. And these guys doing this to absolute perfection now. And Bryce Puto back in front. How did that happen, and why did he let it happen?
Yeah, you know, they both went pretty quick around last time, but Schooler was quicker. He actually made up a pretty decent chunk of time on them. 1.7 back. If he had some assistance from Piatek, they could conceivably close this differential, but given how it went in the previous race, I don't have a lot of hope for that. We'll see if he's able to get there, though, especially when it's 1.7 seconds and not 7. There's still a little bit of drive in Schooler that he can run these two down.
Absolutely, and if Piatek just gets there and then doesn't try and race him, and they just draft well together. Look at Soto way down to the inside, trying to knife underneath Beans. Beans had to open the wheel up a little bit, but he also carried a little bit more speed with that wider line. Beans might have good position here down into turn 8.
Love his perspective here. Out the right side window, you can see Soto.
Watch that footwork. Thing of beauty.
Right back to the throttle here. And had to kind of pinch it off on exit because Hoffman was slow. We'll set Soto up with a run here and Dim Dahl. Getting physical out there today.
Yes, it sure is there. Jameson was just trying to figure out a way to get back in the queue, and they were having absolutely none of it. And so he's sort of freight trained on the outside here. I think he's going to try, and he needs to just tuck back in because Murchison was starting to build a pretty big run behind him.
Yeah, 5-car race for 3rd place, and you can make it 6 because Skip Rock Jr. is right back there as well, and not too far back is Jordan Butler. Here comes the 37 to the inside. Huffman, he's way down there. White line below is out of bounds here.
Look at Skip Rock carrying speed.
Oh, and Murchison just blew it up, I think.
He sure did.
And Butler went around for a spin just off shot.
Let's see what happened here. Just missed the apex.
Oh, he's going to get hit from the 35 of Michael Loughran. And those engines go up, they make a heck of a sound. Boom.
And a plume.
Yeah, boom and a plume.
And take a look there, Trace Hance up into 13th. He's trying to fight his way back through the pack.
He's gone down from where he, whoops. What was that? That was Rich Green. He was already a lap down, and there goes that one as well.
That's what caused that crash, was punching the motor there.
One of my favorite things about sim racing is that there's no fluid to clean up after an engine spill.
Yeah, that is nice. Hey, and how about Jorge Ortiz, the 311, has fought his way up into the top 10.
He had a phenomenal round at Sebring as far as pace is concerned. Didn't really have the results he was looking for there. And finished 30th in the first race, but he's up 20 spots in this one. So that's definitely going the right direction.
Well, there's no question about his speed. And look at this now. It looks like Schooler and Piatek, and they've taken a tenth or two back here. They are working together. This is smart. Just race hard. And, you know, obviously you need to hope that Rice Pudo maybe makes just a little mistake somewhere that just slows down he and Rick Segrini a smidge.
Yeah, the key here is if they can get this gap, and they are closing it pretty quickly, actually. They were down, they were better 2/10 quicker for Schooler, yes, and about 3/10 for Piatek. If they can get that gap down to 0.8 of a second or so, they don't need to be there. The second that Rick Segrini and Rice Pudo go side by side in that last lap, that's your opportunity to pounce, because as soon as those cars pull out, it's like hitting a brick wall of air. And if you're still getting a push from someone like Piatek or Schooler, you're going to rocket right up to those two lead drivers and steal it out of nowhere on that last lap. So just get within striking distance, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, and when they go side by side, they're just, you know, that hole they're punching gets really wide and really can create a massive tow. So, like you said, just be there or thereabouts. As Trace Hans now taking a look at Jordan Butler. Looks like he might have position on him here.
A crossover here on exit. Butler can throttle down, and he will not be able to cross him over, but now he's got the slipstream for this backstretch.
Let's see what he can do here. Jens doing everything he can to try and fight his way up into this top 10. Ortiz has gone around on Skip Brock, now sits in that 9th spot. See what he does here as we're on board with Jordan Butler.
See if he'll elect for the high side here, if he'll wait and maybe just push the 53. They're 6 seconds back from Skip Brock, so I don't know that there's much hope in catching him, but Butler's going to sit on it for now.
There he pops.
Yeah, he's lifted, though.
It's too late, though, yeah.
So he'll sit there for now. Meanwhile, Skip Brock Jr. just took a spot away from Jamison Huffman, who gets bumped back to 10th, and then Jorge Ortiz is right on the pointy end of this in 8th.
Yeah, he and Brock have sort of used each other. They coming through the field, and they're still in lockstep here, and they've got a really good rhythm. And if they can work together here, they might be able to get up and close on that next group here as we now watch the Beats Forster, Josh Soto, D. Dibdahl pack here that are currently running 5th, 6th, and 7th.
These three are 4.2 back from Piatek and Schooler, and now Piatek and Schooler have hit a bit of a wall, but I wouldn't get discouraged if I'm them. They're actually matching the pace of the front two.
Yeah, they
it's
are.
Not so bad. You'd have to imagine that Rick Segrini and Rice Pudo might battle before the last lap. I don't anticipate they do it for very long, but it wouldn't take very long to lose a couple tenths of a second.
Well, and you remember the first race when these guys had a 5-second lead, and then Rick Segrini had that little moment. It cost him 2 seconds. Well, if they have a similar moment here, Schooler and Piatek will be right on top of them at this stage. As 35 has a moment here, Michael Laughlin.
Yeah, who contact there with Justin Cadet, yeah.
One thing that we're seeing this year is they've added a few more stewards that are watching each of these races, and they are really enforcing penalties. And if you get 10 or more penalty points on your docket here, is a nice move there by Soto down to the inside of Forster. Now the question is, can he hold it here as they head up into this really tricky turn 3? Forster's got position. Looks like Soto is going to be able to hang on to it, but look at Forster just working the outside. He's got the inside through 5. This is going to be an interesting run. Forster's going to get it. What helped Forster there was Dibdahl. Made a little bit of an attack on Soto, didn't he? And that helped Forster clear the way. But look how quick now Ortiz, Brock, and Jamison Huffman. This is now a 6-car queue.
Well, that's exactly the point of the front two groups, leading this pack. Is if you make the slightest mistake or spend any time side by side, you're going to give up plenty of time. Even Schooler and Piatek now 1.4, 1.3 back from Jordan Rick Segrini, 1.2 back as they hit turn 8. It doesn't take a lot. We still got 7 minutes to go. So jury's out on who or what pairing is going to win this race. This just reminds me so much of NASCAR's kind of mid-2010s, tandem drafting sort of thing, where you pick a dancing partner and you roll with them all the way to the end.
Yeah, it looks pretty similar, doesn't it? There's no question about that. Coming up on under 7 minutes to go. And, Rick Segrini, he knows what he can do on that last lap. So all he's doing right now is trying to work with Rasputo to keep this duo of Schooler and Piatek off their 6 here.
And it's just,
the thing is, you look at how close they run to make this effective. One unmet tap. Ooh, the problem there for Schooler. Missed that apex. That's not going to help.
No, the point is the leader of this pack has to be extremely precise.
Yes.
And if you're braking even the slightest bit early, you're going to be costing the trailing group time. The trailing car can drive a bit easier, but you still need to stay tight to make sure you're maximizing the areas in which to draft. If you're lollygagging too far back and it takes you half a straightaway to get to the rear bumper, you're leaving time on the table. But you can't be too close entering the corner because you don't want to rear end the guy ahead of you. It takes a lot of cooperation to make this work.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I got to tell you, this last lap, both Schooler and Piatek turning identical lap times at 1:39.081. That is how close and fierce this is here. And as these guys got close enough to maybe get after it, they start racing again here now, and that is allowing Beans and Dean to kind of ease away right now from Ortiz, Soto, and Brock.
And add to your point about how close it is at the front, Rasputo and Rick Segrini were only off by 0.004 of a second. So tied for third and fourth in lap time. Actually, we can pull this up here on the timing and scoring board there. You can see the last lap's run. And pretty much everyone running very close sequentially is right on top of each other because they're effectively running the same lap, just displaced out of phase by a couple of feet.
Well, and I'll tell you what, that last lap by Schooler, where we saw him miss that apex just a little bit, that cost those guys about a half a second at margin now, up to 2.2 seconds.
Yeah, that was a costly one here, but it can swing the other way just as quickly. 4 minutes and 50 seconds to go. Look at this big slide by Ortiz into turn 1, trying to defend from Soto and Skip Brock.
Yeah, he held on to it. Boy, he was right on the edge here. And now you can see Brock. Oh, and Ortiz floats a little wide. Soto dives down to the inside. It's not going to have the best position. Brock going to try and come through. Can't quite get it done. And Soto trying to force his way up. He's not going to get alongside, but I think he's trying to maybe pin Ortiz, and Ortiz having none of it. Look at Brock, late move down to the inside of Soto. Beautifully executed. He's picked that spot up.
That was well done there by Skip Brock Jr. And unfortunately for Jordan Butler, another issue. This time it looks to be terminal, and I think it was down at turn 1. If I had to guess, this is going to be a downshift that went badly. Yep, there it goes. And lost the drive gear and into the wall, almost into the wall. Grinds it to a halt and calls it a day. Costly for points.
Frustrating. Yep, yeah, very much so. 3.5 minutes thereabouts to go.
It should be
this duo
3 laps or so when they get back to the stripe. It's going to be close. It was very close last time. So if their pace is any different, especially with the temperatures being so much higher, we could be seeing only 2 laps ago. We'll see what it looks like though. Lap 11 of an estimated 13 with 3 minutes and 20 seconds on the board.
And you know, if they've had to push a little bit harder with those higher temps, we talk about the abrasiveness of this track, especially in the heat. You know, it makes those tires a little more difficult to catch, a little more difficult to read sometimes. One little step out of the car can cost you a lot of time and momentum. And I'll tell you, Forster, Dibdall, Ortiz, Soto, Brock, they've all sort of joined each other once again. And we've got a 5-car battle for 5th.
Yeah, this has been a great fight. And really, the second half of the top 10 has been the action spot tonight. And as it has been actually the last couple of weeks, last couple of rounds.
Down into turn 6. Pick up the throttle early. This just continues to open the radius up.
Remarkable consistency by the front 2 also. They've been lapping in the there's about 0.8 of drop off in pace, but Schooler and Piatek have significantly lost pace, not 2 or 3 tenths worth of pace, and about half a second, because they were quicker before, remember. They've lost half a second of ground or of pace since then, so they've really gone the wrong direction there.
Well, and I really am not picking on Giancarlo, but watching, you know, like I said, through 3 into 4, he runs a little wider on the exit at 3 and then really has to abuse the tires to get back over. And I see him doing that in a couple of other spots, and I wonder if he's just used his tires up. And, you know, I almost half expect Piatek to just pounce. I think right now Olivier is just setting himself up to grab that final spot on the podium.
2 laps to go, and we were there by only about 7 seconds. That was how close it was. Here's Ortiz under defense from Beans Forrester. This is going to get tight into turn 1.
Ooh, it is, and Forrester, I'll tell you, Beans right there showing his experience a little bit, going, if I try and force this issue, it's going to go bad. But look at Soto diving down to the inside of Dibdahl. Dibdahl opened the wheel. That was a great piece of track awareness by Dean Dibdahl. Sent Soto there, opened the wheel up just enough, and didn't give him so much room that he could come through, but made sure that there wasn't contact. Great piece of driving by Dean.
I think this group on the last lap is going to be one to watch for sure.
Yeah.
There could be 3 or 4 photo finishes just in this pack alone. And
Trace Hance, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Rice Budo is leading Rick Singrini as he was in the previous race. What has he learned?
Yeah, exactly. There's Trace kind of all by himself right now in a lonely 10th, and Fletcher in the 69 behind him. But Deacon Greenfield, remember at one point, I've been talking about Deacon, we saw him. He was way back in the order. That car is abused and ugly, and he's fought his way back up into 13th. So nice recovery drive by Deacon, and look at these guys, door to door once again.
A couple of them door to door. Dean Dibdahl and Soto, and then Ortiz and Forster. And out of the final banked corner, Rice Budo and Rick Singrini lead, Greg, but there's that white flag, 1 lap to go.
Yeah, this is going to be fascinating. We've got 2 two-car scrums here, and we've seen already that if you drive the right kind of lap in that second spot, you're in a spot. Piatek swinging way wide, and Schooler down to the inside. Look at this mess, as again, it's Ortiz over Forrester, but look at Dibdahl, he and Soto. Oh, Soto, big slide, gathers it up, but is Brock going to be able to sneak through? He does easily.
Wow, that was exciting, and I don't think it's over yet. They've still got another straightaway to contend with here, sweeping through turns 3 and 4. And Schooler and Piatek, they're side by side once more. They've given up their opportunity to run down Rick Singrini and Rice Budo, but Schooler back to 4th, and he'll get one more opportunity to steal it back.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about Olivier going to the front here of this two-car battle when we know what that draft can do on the last lap. Meanwhile, Rick Singrini has got to have a little bit of a grin underneath that helmet because he made this work to perfection in race 1. Boy, he's right there.
Rice Budo lifting. He's lifting out of the throttle. Here comes Rick Singrini to the inside. And this is that race to the bottom like I talked about. Rice Budo doesn't want to have to be the leader through the banked corners.
And Rick Singrini said, nope, thank you very much. Now he pops to the outside. But I don't know that he's even going to try the pass just yet. I wouldn't be surprised if he drops down. Oh, he decided to just get a side draft here. This is fascinating. Rick Singrini's got a little bit more momentum. Is he going to pull it off? Is he going to double up to the line? He does. 23 one-thousandths of a second, and at the line for third, Piatek.
Yes.
Oh, and that margin actually went to 74 one-thousandths.
Piatek
just pulled it off. Wow.
Fletcher and Schmidt.
I wasn't sure about how wise that was, but look at this. Look at Forrester, late move, Kyle.
Yeah, that's Court Schmidt actually in the 172.
Oh, it is. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, going against Fletcher.
Yeah, Forrester was right behind Jorge Ortiz, but lost that battle. And then there's another battle coming back around to the checkers. Andrew Gilliland, Michael Loughran, Tristan Cadet. This is going to be a spicy one here. 3 abreast maybe.
Cadet pops way outside. Now he's on the high line. But it's 35. Brings it across. Wow, we see some racing. Mike Loughran there in that 19. Didn't matter where in the pack drivers were. It was just an amazing battle. But Rick Singrini does the double. Piatek brings it home on the box once again. Watch this. This was a pass. Kyle, this took forever to happen, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think Rice Budo was trying to back him up leaving turn 8 just to stunt the momentum. But once you get that pass started, you can use that side draft a bit and just that longer way around to carry the momentum that you started when you accelerated out of turn 8. So once it starts, I just don't think there's any stopping it unless you throw a block, which you can't do. So sitting duck there for Nicholas Rice Budo, but he had to learn that lesson twice tonight.
Yeah, and it seemed to me for Rice Budo that if you're going to do that move, you need to overslow a little bit sooner. Because all Rick Segrini did was when Bryce Budo started to slow was pop to the outside. Kept all of his momentum alive, didn't he?
It sure did. Here's a look at your results, though. Rick Segrini on top in both races. That'd be a great points night for him. Bryce Budo, second in both races. Also a good points night, but just shy on stealing the checkers away. Olivier Piatek grabs the podium. Giancarlo Schooler in fourth. Jorge Ortiz finally gets the results he was owed last week at Sebring.
Yeah, and Ortiz, ends up on top of what was a 5-car battle for that 5th spot, and then Trace Hans hanging on to 10th. Remember, Rick Segrini came in here 3 points out of the lead. It was held by Josh Soto. Well, Soto down the order a little bit tonight. Bryce Budo, 2 consecutive second places, but Rick Segrini, 2 consecutive wins. He's going to leave here with the points lead, although Bryce Budo is not going to be hurting too bad as they leave here. And again, we go back outside of the top 10. Fletcher, Schmidt, Greenfield, what a fight back drive for him. Way to go. Jose Ortiz, I think it was 2 consecutive top 15s for him. Blethen, Bankin, how nice to see both of those guys after problematic first races coming up well into the top 20.
Yeah, that was some decent results there for those guys. Tristan Cadet grabs the top 20. Then here's some drivers that didn't have such good days. Wayne Buttermore, Andrew Guada, Jameson Huffman down in 27th in that number 37 car. Jack Murchison, all probably owed better results than they got. And of course, you see Eric Hebo down there. Good start to the night with qualifying, but did not finish, I think, where he belonged.
No, and that's, obviously that's going to not help him. He came in here 8th in the points, but was down the order a bit in the point count. So, and we know we've seen some good speed from Eric here in this first race, and obviously in qualifying today, the first race last week at Sebring. I mean, so he's got some pace, but just not being able to get the results, and it's the results that pay the points for championships and the like. So tough one there for him, but nonetheless, some awfully exciting racing unfolding. There's no question about that.
I'll say, let's talk with Olivier Piatek, who brings his number 62 car home in third tonight. Bit of a drag race between you and Giancarlo Schooler, Olivier. That was fun to watch. The racing tonight, challenging in some instances to get that drafting right, but weren't able to quite catch those front two, but you did win a drag race of your own for third.
Yeah, I mean, we tried. Me and JC were trying to work together and make sure we catch the leaders, but Dean got involved, and he just kind of, it wasn't intentional, but he just slowed us up and blocked, and we just lost leaders from that. We tried to work together, and we were just within a 10th every lap, but honestly, we killed our tires then, and it just wasn't enough, really. They weren't even going to battle in the last lap. We weren't going to get there.
And Olivier, you had to really fight in that first race to get yourself up in a position. You had a great start. But you've had to do some battling this year. In this one, you're able to, run right at the front. It looked late, like maybe you may have had a little bit more pace than Giancarlo. We're watching a replay right now, and he had that little wider line through 3 and then had to work the tires a little harder, coming back over into 4. Is that why in the last lap you decided to make the pass a lot earlier than we thought?
To be honest, I went into 1. And just to peek on the outside, forced him to mistake, and he backed out, and I backed out at the same time. So he just kept the position, and then I knew he was going to back out. He was trying to get me at the line, trying to get a big toe. So I just sent it in and tried to put the best last sector in I could, and it was just enough that he wasn't able to get me at the line.
Yeah, it was just enough, and it was great. I mean, it's so fun watching you guys race and try and run those guys down. You were able to do it for a bit, but always fun, and good fighting third in this one, man.
Yep, thank you. See you guys next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see you there
for the win.
We'll see you there. Vying for Olivier. Thanks so much.
Yep, see you guys.
And we're going to move on now to Giancarlo Schooler, who had a pretty fun night tonight. Ended up really scrapping for that third place battle for most of the evening, Giancarlo. So take us through your battles tonight with Olivier there at the end, and then just trying to catch Nicholas and Jordan Rickson-Graney, who were out front and going very, very fast tonight.
I mean, unfortunately, we got split up at the start. We had our own race while Jordan and Nick got away. And then, me and Oliver just worked together. We decided we're going to do everything that we can possibly to get back to them. Both of those guys, world-class drivers in these cars. Both of them put in plenty of hours of practice. So to even, gain on them some laps was an accomplishment for us. We were gaining on them for a little bit, and we thought maybe we could get there. And then I think both me and Oliver, just blew up our front tires, and not much we could do after that.
Yeah, I was going to say it looked like from about second half of the race on, it looked like you were dealing with a little bit of a push particularly in 2 and 3. And obviously, you guys gave it one heck of a fight, though. And I know that it's got to be frustrating to sit in third most of the race, Giancarlo, and then lose it on that last lap. But man, it wasn't for a lack of effort.
Yeah, no, I mean, great racing with Oliver there. I thought I had him for sure. I thought I lined it up, got the run on him. I thought it was going to be my spot. I think I lost it by, it had to be less than, a 100th there. But great race with him. He's always, great to race with, great racecraft and all of that. And I mean, to Jordan and Nick, they put the hours in, they deserve it. So well done to them as well.
How about 7 1,000ths of a second was the margin?
Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
You guys were that close for the whole race. It was a blast to call. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you guys for putting the show on.
You bet.
All right, moving on now to Nicholas Rice-Sputo, who came home in second in both races tonight. Nick, I know tonight maybe a bit of a sore subject. Those runs back to the stripe. Race 1, Jordan was able to pull out the move on you. In race 2, it looked like you had a trick up your sleeve, but it didn't quite pan out. Regardless, 2 good points races for you tonight, so walking away with something at least.
Yeah, it was a good race. Jordan and I were working together the whole time. Yeah, I got second both races last time we were here, so I was like, I don't know if it's meant to be here for me. But yeah, I was in the last race, but last season I was behind him and I lost. So I'm not quite sure how to win here, I guess, but it was still fun.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about was, at the start when you ended up dropping into second behind him, I thought, all right, he's where he wants to be, just stays there. And then suddenly you were in front. Did you mean to take the lead or did he play a game?
No, Jordan actually made a mistake where he almost looped it and I just had to go around him so we didn't have Giancarlo catch up.
Okay, we missed that.
Yeah.
All right, well, but I'll tell you, you guys put on such an amazing show. And, yeah, you've got to feel a little bit frustrated right there. Kyle kind of noticed something. Coming out of turn 8 on that last lap, did you overslow just a little bit to try?
Yeah, I dragged the brakes. I was like, I don't know, this might work, it might not, but I did drag the brakes out of there.
Yeah, well, hey, obviously you got to, go for every tool in the toolbox when you're racing a guy like Jordan. And you gave it one hell of a go, man. And I tell you, watching you guys execute in line astern for all those laps, there are a couple of moments, obviously, for each of you. But, man, what a great race.
Yeah, it was really good. Thanks, guys.
You bet.
Thank you. And Jordan Rick-Signorini joins us now from Victory Lane here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. I think tonight, let me just double-check. Oh, you led more than just 2 laps. You led 3. But, wow, what a night for you, Jordan. Those last lap passes, you were just loading the gun up the whole time and then took your shot. It only took 1 to take down Nicholas Rice-Sputo in both races, so congratulations on that.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. Definitely was playing the strategy game tonight with the banking.
Hey, got to ask you in that first race when you went underneath them and then got all crossed up, we, speculated that you had the clutch in for most of that and you didn't have any engine braking. What happened there?
You'd be correct on the clutch was in. It was actually my right foot slipped off with the shoes I'm wearing. Were slippy on these pedals. Slipped off the pedal. It got stuck in between the clutch and the brake. I was just along for a ride, hoping that Nick saw I was missing, and somehow the slide stopped me enough that I could take back off and never even got the 2X for spinning out on iRacing.
Yeah, no, it was pretty crazy. And in the first race, your final lap pass through the banking looked pretty absolutely normal. We just talked to Nick, and he said that he did try and drag the brake a little bit coming out of 8 to kill your momentum. It looked like you just popped to the outside, kept your momentum alive. But that side draft pass, it looked like it took forever for you to get that made.
When we came out of that last corner onto the banking, he dragged the brake, and I saw I actually went left to try and just get under his inside and just have it as a drag race and have more momentum in. And he actually went to go cover off. I didn't want to go underneath the line and get in the off track for the lead. Right. So I had to drag the brakes and go back to right. I went way up on the banking to get the run coming down in conjunction with the side draft, and ended up being enough to get it done even after having to slam on the brakes.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, not only a great event for you, but great for the points. You came in here 3 out of the lead, and with the 2 wins and, with the 2 seconds for Nick and the issues for Soto, I think you leave here with the points lead. And I know it's really early in the season, but still better to have the points lead than not. So well done.
Thank you, Greg. Definitely nice to have. My past couple of seasons, I've always gone off to slow starts and crashing out, so it's nice to be able to get some points on the board early.
And you did that. You did it extremely well. As always, a treat. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Jordan. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
All right, Greg, we were treated to some excellent racing tonight at Homestead-Miami Speedway, especially there at the tail end. It's always a blast to watch those drag races to the finish. And the good news is we get to do it more next week at an even bigger and even faster racetrack in Daytona Beach.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw here is awesome, but it's going to pale to what the potential is at Daytona, and it always puts in some, awfully exciting racing. But I got to tell you, I loved on this layout. I love the strategy that you could actually see play out. Like your catch of Nicholas dragging the brake a little bit, doing whatever you can. I just love that, and this track really promotes this. I hope when we race here, I know we're coming back racing the A version, but I love this B layout a lot. And you talk about Daytona, it's going to be wonderful as well. That's coming up next Tuesday night. But before we run here, as always, have to say a thanks to our presenting sponsors, 3P Logistics, Final Turn Motorsports. They do just an incredible job at the track and also in helping support the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Championship. And of course now Wine Country Motorsports doing an absolutely amazing job as they do at the track in providing gear, safety equipment and the like for the drivers. And as always, most importantly, Full Send Sims, Court Schmidt and his remarkable company. Practice does make podium. It is proven out every time we do one of these races, and then racers go to the actual real world event, having had a little bit of extra track time here, and that's what this is all about. So huge thanks to all of you that have tuned in once again. As always, a massive thanks to Kyle Heyer and to Finian DeCuna. Did such a great job on the technical side with camera setup and the like. I'm Greg Creamer. Thank you so much for joining us from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Next Tuesday night, Daytona, the High Banks. We'll see you then.